Let's go to Jason Miles. He's up in Kingwood Forest, actually, where they've been doing some rescues there by boat. And it looks like, is that another boat or two behind you there, Jason?
Yeah, there are boats here and also a big truck. It's actually like a public utility type truck, not even a specialized high water rescue vehicle, but just kind of a dump truck type vehicle that just canvassed the North Kingwood Forest subdivision. I think I see some HPD personnel and also personnel from the fire department. They've been through this neighborhood several times. In fact, Chief Art Acevedo, this is the area where he was earlier when we saw him broadcasting via his social media, going house to house, asking people, would you like to come with us? In many cases, people did not want to leave their homes. Ralph, if you can pan over, you see him. And there's another high water rescue vehicle making its way down a street here. I can't tell if anyone is on there. I don't think anyone was on this first one. We have seen people throughout this neighborhood still walking around with waders on. Some people had a kayak. We saw that in my earlier report from here. So the water, it seems, has gotten into some homes, but not all homes. And if the water has gotten into some homes, it hasn't gotten too high, maybe a couple of inches. That's a good thing. But as the chief said in his video, the water could rise even more, obviously, as bayous and creeks and other tributaries empty out. Areas could still go up more. So it's good to be safer than be sorry later. So here's your chance to get out, folks, is basically what Chief Art Acevedo was telling people. We see another rescue vehicle here coming out. And the thing is, I've seen so many outside agencies come in to help Houston Police and the Harris County Sheriff's Office. Of course, Kingwood is in Houston. We saw a Atascocita earlier. We saw a crew, high water rescue crew from Fort Bend County up here volunteering their services as well. All a matter of just helping these people who have ridden out so many flood events in recent history even, helping them get through yet another one. And I want to mention briefly here before I toss it back to you, our colleague Melissa Correa brought my attention to a social media post by the superintendent of Humble ISD schools talking about Kingwood High School. Had some water inside of it. And of course, Kingwood High School just reopened not too long ago after getting a major renovation thanks to damage by Hurricane Harvey, or left by Hurricane Harvey. So disappointing to see water inside Kingwood High School, but the superintendent added that they have precautionary measures in place to try and deal with that minor flooding. So hopefully that won't be too much of a hindrance as students head back, whenever they head back to Kingwood High School. Guys.